The bitter taste of defeat. The acrid stench of burning plastic and scorched earth permeated the air as Sarah Connor emerged from the underground bunker. She squinted against the harsh sunlight, her eyes having grown accustomed to the dim fluorescent lighting below. The ruins of what was once New York City stretched out before her, a graveyard of twisted metal and shattered dreams. Sarah's hand instinctively went to the radiation detector on her belt. The clicking was slower now, but still present. They'd have about an hour topside before the exposure became dangerous. She signaled to her companions, and they cautiously made their way through the rubble. "I still can't believe this is real," muttered Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the team's xenobiologist. Her once pristine lab coat was now a tattered, stained rag that hung loosely on her gaunt frame. "Believe it, Doc," growled General Marcus Stone, his voice rough from disuse. The Galactic Council made Dan sure we'd never forget. As if on cue, the air crackled with static. Holographic projectors, remnants of the alien invasion force, flickered to life among the ruins. The smug, multi-eyed face of High Counselor Zix-Thre filled the sky. "Greetings, pitiful humans," the alien's voice boomed, dripping with condescension. "Another day dawns on your broken world. How does it feel to be the galaxy's newest slave race?" Sarah clenched her fists, fighting the urge to scream. These taunting broadcasts had become a daily occurrence, a constant reminder of humanity's defeat. "We should keep moving," whispered Zach, the teenage hacker who'd become an unlikely addition to their team. His fingers danced across the screen of the salvage tablet, searching for any exploitable weaknesses in the broadcast signal. They picked their way through the debris, always alert for Galactic Council patrols or desperate survivors. Their mission today was simple but crucial: find food and medical supplies for the bunker's dwindling population. As they approached the ruins of a grocery store, Elena suddenly froze. "Wait," she hissed, pointing to a patch of ground near the entrance. "Look at the soil composition. It's different." General Stone crouched down, running his fingers through the earth. "It's warm," he muttered, brow furrowed in confusion. Sarah's instincts screamed danger. Everyone back now. They'd barely made it 10 feet before the ground erupted. A massive, worm-like creature burst from the earth, its segmented body covered in iridescent scales. Razor-sharp mandibles clicked menacingly as it towered over them. "Polarity worm," Elena shouted, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding her fear. The Council must be terraforming the planet. The creature lunged, its maw wide enough to swallow a car. Sarah dove to the side, feeling the rush of air as it missed her by inches. General Stone unloaded his pulse rifle into the beast's hide, but the energy bolt simply dissipated across its scales. "The gun's useless," Stone roared, ducking behind an overturned truck. Zach, his young face pale with terror, furiously tapped at his tablet. "I'm picking up electromagnetic readings from that thing. If I can just—" The worm reared back for another strike. Sarah closed her eyes, bracing for the end. Suddenly, a high-pitched whine filled the air. The creature writhed in apparent agony, its segments contracting violently before it collapsed to the ground, twitching. Sarah looked up to see Zach grinning triumphantly, his tablet emitting the painful frequency. "Electromagnetic pulse," he explained. "Disrupted its nervous system. Quick thinking, kid." General Stone nodded approvingly. "But we need to move. That thing's friends can't be far behind." They salvaged what they could from the grocery store, mostly canned goods and some miraculously unbroken bottles of water. As they prepared to head back to the bunker, Elena insisted on taking samples from the polarity worm. "This could be crucial information," she argued. "If they're terraforming Earth, we need to know how and why." Their return journey was tense, each shadow and sound a potential threat. They were just a block away from the bunker entrance when a piercing alarm cut through the air. Red beams of light crisscrossed the street ahead, forming an impenetrable barrier. "Containment field," General Stone growled. "They're hurting us." As if summoned by his words, a Galactic Council patrol ship shimmered into view overhead. Its sleek, organic design was a stark contrast to the ruined human architecture below. A gravitic beam shot out, freezing the group in place. A hatch opened on the ship's underside, and 3 figures descended. Their elongated bodies were encased in biomechanical armor, tentacles writhing where a human would have arms. Sarah recognized their species from intelligence briefings. Viscthar, the Council's elite shock troops. The lead Viscthar approached, its faceless helmet regarding them impassively. When it spoke, the words were transmitted directly into their minds, a disconcerting sensation that made Sarah's teeth ache. Unauthorized surface excursion. The aliens' thoughts reverberated in their skulls. You will be processed and relocated to Labor Camp Epsilon 9. Sarah's heart sank. They'd all heard the horror stories about the labor camps. Few humans returned, and those who did were broken in body and spirit. Just as the alien reached out to restrain them, a deafening roar filled the air. A massive shape hurtled from the sky, slamming into the patrol ship with bone-crushing force. The containment field flickered and died as the ship's systems went offline. Sarah blinked in disbelief. Standing before them, dwarfing even the Viscthar, was a creature straight out of Earth's prehistoric past. The Tyrannosaurus Rex bellowed its challenge, razor-sharp teeth gleaming in the sunlight. "No way," Zack breathed, his eyes wide with awe. The Viscthar troops reacted quickly, energy weapons materializing from their armor. But the dinosaur was faster. With terrifying speed, it snatched up one alien in its massive jaws, shaking it like a rag doll before tossing the broken body aside. The remaining Viscthar opened fire, their energy bolts scorching the T-Rex's thick hide. The dinosaur roared in pain and fury, its tail whipping around to send another alien flying into a crumbling wall. "Run," Sarah shouted, snapping out of her shock. They sprinted for the bunker entrance, the sounds of battle fading behind them. Once safely inside, they collapsed, gasping for breath. The silence was broken only by the distant rumble of combat and the hum of the bunker's life support systems. What the hell was that?" General Stone panted, his usual composure shattered. Alina's eyes were bright with excitement. It must be from the old cloning project. Remember the amusement park they were building before the invasion? They were using recovered DNA to recreate extinct species. But how did it survive? Sarah asked. And why help us? Zack cleared his throat. Guys, you might want to see this." He held up his tablet, displaying a grainy video feed from a salvaged security camera. The T-Rex stood triumphant over the fallen Viscthar, but that wasn't what drew their attention. A figure stood next to the massive creature, patting its leg affectionately. The person wore a tattered lab coat, and even through the poor video quality, Sarah could make out a familiar face. "It can't be," Alina whispered. But it was. Dr. Alan Grant, the legendary paleontologist who'd gone missing months before the invasion, stood before them larger than life. He looked up at the camera and smiled, giving a small salute before climbing onto the T-Rex's back and riding off into the ruins. As the video ended, a stunned silence fell over the group. Finally, General Stone spoke, his voice filled with something Sarah hadn't heard in a long time. "Hope." "Well," he said, a grim smile spreading across his face. "Looks like this war just got interesting." Sarah nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. The Galactic Council had conquered Earth, but they clearly underestimated humanity's resourcefulness. Between Alina's scientific knowledge, Zack's technological skills, the General's strategic mind, and now the wild card of prehistoric allies, they had a fighting chance. For the first time since the invasion, Sarah allowed herself to feel a glimmer of optimism. The bitter taste of defeat was still there, but now it was tinged with something else, the sweet promise of resistance. As if sensing the shift in mood, the bunker's ancient speaker system crackled to life. But instead of the usual Galactic Council propaganda, a different voice filled the air. unmistakably human, filled with determination and defiance. To all survivors, Dr. Grant's voice rang out. The fight isn't over. Earth still has a few surprises left. Stand by for instructions. Hope is not lost. Humanity will rise again. The broadcast cut off, leaving them in electrified silence. Sarah looked at her companions, seeing her own mix of shock, fear, and budding excitement mirrored in their faces. "Well," she said, allowing herself a small smile, "I guess we'd better get to work." Here's a 1,200-word continuation of Whispers from the Stars. The pale light of Earth's battered moon illuminated the desolate landscape as Sarah Connor led her team through the ruins of what was once Chicago. The city's iconic skyline, once a testament to human engineering, now stood as a graveyard of shattered glass and twisted metal. "Stay alert," General Stone whispered, his eyes scanning the horizon. "Council patrols have been increasing lately." Dr. Elena Rodriguez nodded, adjusting the strap of her makeshift sample kit. "Let's hope it's worth the risk. Our food supplies won't last another month." Zach, the young hacker, fiddled nervously with his tablet. "I got some weird readings up ahead. Could be salvageable tech, or a trap," Sarah finished grimly. "We'll check it out, but carefully." They crept forward, using the wreckage for cover. As they rounded the corner of a collapsed building, a faint glow caught Sarah's eye. She held up a hand, signaling the others to stop. "There," she pointed, "about 100 yards north." Through the swirling dust, they could make out the unmistakable shape of a crashed ship. Its design was sleek and organic, clearly of alien origin, but unlike anything they'd seen from the Galactic Council. "That's not Council tech," Elena breathed. Her scientific curiosity piqued. General Stone frowned. "Could be a new weapon they're testing. We should turn back." But Sarah had already started moving towards the crash site. "If it's new tech, we need to know about it. And if it's not Council, well, that could be even more valuable." As they approached, the ship's strange architecture became clearer. It seemed to be composed of overlapping plates that shimmered with an iridescent sheen, like the scales of some cosmic fish. A jagged gash ran along one side, exposing pulsing internal structures that looked unsettlingly alive. "Incredible," Elena murmured, running her scanner over the hull. "The molecular structure is like nothing I've ever seen. It's as if the ship is one large, semi-organic entity." Zach pointed to a flickering light near what appeared to be the cockpit. "Look, I think someone's alive in there." Sarah's heart raced as she peered through the cracked view screen. Inside, slumped over a bizarre control panel, was a figure. It was vaguely humanoid, but with elongated limbs and a head that tapered to a point. Its skin was a pale, luminescent blue. "We need to get it out," Sarah decided. "Elena, can you find a way to open this thing?" The xenobiologist nodded, her fingers dancing over the ship's surface. After a tense minute, a section of the hull seemed to melt away, creating an opening. The alien pilot stirred as they entered, its large, multifaceted eyes blinking slowly. When it spoke, the words seemed to form directly in their minds, accompanied by a cascade of vivid imagery. "Greetings, Earthborn," the alien's thoughts washed over them. "I am Texandri, of the Luminary. My mission was to warn you." "Warn us?" General Stone asked, his suspicion warring with curiosity. "About what?" Xandri's form shuddered, and a viscous blue fluid seeped from a wound in its side. "The Council is not what it seems. There is a greater threat, a weapon of unimaginable power." Helena knelt beside the alien, her medical scanner whirring. "It's dying," she said softly. "We need to stabilize it if we want more information." But Xandri shook its head. "No time. Take this." A trembling hand extended, offering a small crystalline object. "Coordinates to the weapon. You must destroy it before the Council." The aliens' thoughts became fragmented, a whirlwind of images flooding their minds. Sarah saw glimpses of vast space battles, planets shattering like glass, and a dark shape that seemed to devour light itself. With a final, shuddering breath, Sandri went still. The ship around them pulsed once, then began to rapidly decompose, as if returning to some primordial organic soup. "We need to move now," Sarah shouted, grabbing the crystal and pulling her stunned companions towards the exit. They barely made it clear before the ship collapsed in on itself, leaving nothing but a smoldering crater and 1,000 unanswered questions. As they caught their breath, Sarah examined the crystal. Its facets seemed to shift and change as she turned it, hinting at depths beyond its small size. "So," Zack said, breaking the tense silence, "anyone want to explain what the hell just happened?" General Stone's face was grim. "We just got pulled into something a lot bigger than our fight with the Council. If that alien was telling the truth, it was," Elena interjected. "My scans picked up traces of tachyon particles. That ship had been through time as well as space. Whatever the Luminary were trying to warn us about, it's big enough to cross dimensions." Sarah closed her eyes, feeling the weight of this new responsibility settle on her shoulders. "We need to decode this crystal. If there's a weapon out there that scares even the Galactic Council, we can't let them get their hands on it." A high-pitched whine suddenly filled the air. Sarah looked up to see a Galactic Council patrol ship descending rapidly towards their position. "They must have detected the crash," General Stone growled. "We need to move now." As they sprinted for cover, the crystal in Sarah's hand began to pulse with an inner light. Suddenly, the world around them seemed to blur and shift. The ruined cityscape melted away, replaced by a sterile white environment that seemed to stretch infinitely in all directions. Where are we?" Zack asked, his voice echoing strangely in the featureless space. Before anyone could answer, a holographic display flickered to life before them. It showed a three-dimensional star map, with one system pulsing in angry red. "It appears to be some kind of navigation system," Elena mused, studying the display. "But these star configurations, they're unlike anything in our known galaxy." The crystal pulsed again, and a stream of alien symbols began to scroll across the star map. Zack's eyes widened as he watched. I think I can read this," he said, incredulous. "It's like the crystal is translating it directly into my brain. It's coordinates, but not just in space. In time." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "Time coordinates, you mean?" Zack nodded slowly. "This weapon, whatever it is, it's not just hidden somewhere in space. It's hidden somewhere." General Stone let out a low whistle. "Well, that complicates things." "Maybe not," Elena said, her eyes bright with sudden inspiration. "Remember Dr. Grant and his dinosaurs? If he found a way to manipulate time on a small scale, maybe we can use that technology in conjunction with this map." Sarah nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. "It's a long shot, but it might be our only chance. We need to find Grant." The white void around them began to flicker and fade. As the ruins of Chicago rematerialized, they could hear the ominous hum of council ships in the distance. "First things first," Sarah said, pocketing the crystal. "We need to get back to the bunker and plan our next move. Whatever this weapon is, whatever the Luminary were trying to warn us about, it's clear that the fate of Earth, maybe the entire galaxy, now rests in our hands." As they melted into the shadows of the ruined city, Sarah couldn't shake the image of that dark, light-devouring shape from Sandri's final vision. Something told her that their war with the Galactic Council was about to become a footnote in a much larger, more terrifying conflict. The whispers from the stars had become a deafening roar, and humanity would need to rise to the challenge or face extinction. With the weight of the crystal in her pocket and her companions at her side, Sarah steeled herself for the battles to come. The real war, it seemed, was just beginning. The Trojan Gambit. The acrid stench of fear and despair hung heavy in the air as Sarah Connor and her team crouched in the shadows near the perimeter of Labor Camp Epsilon 9. The massive complex sprawled before them, a grotesque fusion of alien architecture and repurposed human infrastructure. Remind me again why we're walking into this death trap. General Stone grumbled, his eyes scanning the patrolling Viscthar guards. Sarah's grip tightened on her makeshift pulse rifle. Because according to our intel, Dr. Amelia Hawthorne is being held here. If anyone can help us decipher the luminary crystal and locate the superweapon, it's her. Elena nodded in agreement. Dr. Hawthorne was pioneering research into quantum entanglement before the invasion. Her knowledge could be crucial. Zack, his young face pale but determined, held up his tablet. I've identified a weak point in their security grid. If we time this right, we can slip in undetected. Sarah took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. All right, let's move. Remember, this is a rescue mission. We get in, find Hawthorne, and get out. No heroics. They moved silently towards the camp's outer wall, using the cover of darkness and debris to avoid detection. As they approached, Zack's fingers flew over his tablet, executing the intricate hack he prepared. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then, with a faint flicker, a section of the energy barrier winked out of existence. We've got 2 minutes before the system resets, Zack whispered urgently. They slipped through the opening, immediately pressing themselves against the inner wall. The courtyard before them was a scene from a nightmare. Humans in tattered uniforms shuffled between ominous alien structures, their movements mechanical and lifeless. My God, Elena breathed. What have they done to these people? There was no time to dwell on the horror. Sarah spotted a side entrance to one of the main buildings and motioned the team forward. They moved quickly, using the shadows and the listless prisoners as cover. Once inside, the alien nature of the facility became even more apparent. The walls pulsed with sickly bioluminescence, and the air was thick with a sweet, cloying scent that made Sarah's head swim. The detention cells should be 2 levels down, General Stone murmured, consulting a crude map they pieced together from escaped prisoners' accounts. They found a lift tube, a disturbing organic version of an elevator, and descended into the bowels of the facility. The lower levels were mercifully quieter, but the oppressive atmosphere only intensified. Life signs detected, Elena whispered, checking her scanner. A cluster of humans, about 50 meters ahead. They crept forward, every nerve on edge. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with a scene that stopped them in their tracks. A large chamber opened up before them, filled with row upon row of translucent pods. Each pod contained a human, suspended in a viscous fluid and connected to a dizzying array of alien technology. It's some kind of neural interface, Elena said, her scientific curiosity warring with horror. They're harvesting human minds. Sarah felt sick, but forced herself to focus. Spread out. Find Hawthorne. They moved through the rows of pods, checking each occupied chamber. It was Zack who finally called out, his voice a mix of triumph and revulsion. Here, I found her. Dr. Amelia Hawthorne floated in her pod, eyes closed and skin pale. Unlike the other prisoners, her pod was connected to a more elaborate set of equipment. They must be probing her mind for scientific knowledge, Elena theorized. We need to get her out of there. General Stone examined the pod's control panel. I don't suppose anyone speaks Blob, he asked dryly, gesturing to the alien interface. Zack stepped forward, his tablet at the ready. I might be able to interface with it. Give me a minute. As Zack worked, Sarah kept watch. The eerie quiet was suddenly shattered by a piercing alarm. Red light bathed the chamber as hidden panels slid open, revealing squadrons of Viscthar guards. We've been made, Sarah shouted. Zack, get her out now. Everyone else, defensive positions. The air filled with the hum of energy weapons as the Viscthar opened fire. Sarah and General Stone returned fire, their salvaged weapons pale imitations of the alien technology, but effective enough to keep the enemy at bay. Elena worked frantically alongside Zack, her medical expertise complementing his technical skills, as they fought to free Dr. Hawthorne. Almost there, Zack grunted, sweat beading on his forehead. Just need to. Got it. The pod hissed open, the viscous fluid draining away. Dr. Hawthorne's eyes snapped open, filled with confusion and fear. It's all right, Elena soothed, helping the disoriented scientist from the pod. We're here to rescue you. A massive explosion rocked the facility, nearly throwing them off their feet. Through the smoke and debris, a familiar roar echoed. You have got to be kidding me. General Stone laughed incredulously as the wall exploded inward, revealing the massive form of a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Riding atop the prehistoric beast, looking for all the world like a post-apocalyptic cowboy, was Dr. Alan Grant. Heard you could use a lift, he shouted over the chaos. Sarah didn't hesitate. Everyone, move. Head for the Rex. They ran, half carrying the weakened Dr. Hawthorne between them. The Viscthar, caught off guard by the sudden appearance of an extinct apex predator, fell into disarray. As they reached Dr. Grant and his improbable mount, the scientist grinned. Glad you could make it. I've got more surprises waiting topside. They clambered onto the T-Rex's back, holding on for dear life as the creature turned and smashed its way back through the facility. Alarms blared and energy weapons sizzled past them, but nothing seemed capable of stopping their escape. As they burst into the open air of the camp's main yard, Sarah's jaw dropped. A herd of Triceratops was rampaging through the compound, their horned heads making short work of alien defenses. Overhead, a flock of pteranodons wheeled and dove, harassing the Galactic Council ships. How? Sarah began, but Dr. Grant cut her off with a laugh. Long story. Short version. Turns out dinosaur DNA is remarkably resistant to temporal manipulation. Makes them real handy in a chrono war. They thundered towards the perimeter, the combined might of resurrected prehistoric life and human determination proving too much for the Galactic Council's defenses. As they cleared the camp's boundaries, Dr. Hawthorne stirred, her eyes focusing on Sarah. The crystal, she mumbled. You have it. Sarah nodded, pulling the luminary artifact from her pocket. We were hoping you could help us understand it. Hawthorne's eyes widened. It's a key, she whispered. A key to unmaking reality itself. The implications of her words hung heavy in the air as they rode into the ruins of the city, the sounds of battle fading behind them. Sarah realized that their daring rescue had been just the opening move in a game with stakes higher than she could have imagined. As the adrenaline of their escape began to fade, Sarah's mind raced with questions. How had Dr. Grant managed to create this dinosaur army? What exactly was the superweapon they sought? And most pressingly, now that they had Dr. Hawthorne, how would they use the luminary crystal to find it? The Trojan Gambit had succeeded beyond their wildest expectations, but Sarah knew that this was just the beginning. The real challenge, saving not just Earth, but perhaps all of reality, still lay ahead. Pandora's Arsenal, the ancient alien megastructure, loomed before them, a twisted labyrinth of impossible geometries that seemed to fold in on themselves. Sarah Connor stood at the entrance, the luminary crystal pulsing gently in her hand, its soft light a stark contrast to the oppressive darkness surrounding them. I still can't believe we made it, Zack whispered, his young face a mix of awe and terror. Dr. Hawthorne nodded, her eyes never leaving the structure. The Council's teleportation network was never designed to handle the quantum fluctuations of the crystal. Your virus was. Inspired. Zack. General Stone grunted, checking his weapon for the 100th time. Let's not celebrate yet. We still need to find this super weapon and figure out how to use it. Sarah took a deep breath, steeling herself. All right, let's move. Stay close. And for God's sake, don't touch anything. They entered the megastructure, and immediately the laws of physics seemed to warp around them. Corridors stretched endlessly in impossible directions, gravity shifted unpredictably, and shadows moved with a life of their own. The entire structure appears to be constructed from exotic matter, Dr. Hawthorne explained, her scientific curiosity overriding her fear. It's manipulating spacetime itself. As they ventured deeper, the crystal in Sarah's hand began to pulse more urgently. Suddenly, a section of wall shimmered and vanished, revealing a hidden chamber. "I guess that's our way forward," Sarah said, leading the group into the room. The chamber was vast, its ceiling lost in darkness above. At its center stood a pedestal, upon which rested an object that defied description. It shifted and changed as they watched, sometimes appearing as a sphere, other times as a cube, and occasionally as something with far more dimensions than the human mind could comprehend. "That's it," Dr. Hawthorne breathed. "The superweapon, a device capable of rewriting the fundamental laws of physics in localized areas." Zach's eyes widened. "You mean we could, turn off gravity for the Galactic Council, or make their weapons not work?" "It's far more powerful than that," Hawthorne replied. "With this, we could potentially alter the very fabric of reality within a given space, change the speed of light, modify the strong nuclear force, even create pocket universes with entirely different physical laws." General Stone whistled low. "No wonder the Council wants it so badly. With that kind of power, they could reshape the galaxy in their image." Sarah approached the pedestal cautiously. As she did, the crystal in her hand began to resonate with the shifting object, creating a harmonic hum that filled the air. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the chamber, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "You have come far, Seekers, but are you prepared for the responsibility that comes with such power?" Before anyone could respond, the room around them shimmered and changed. They found themselves surrounded by holographic displays showing scenes from across the galaxy. Worlds torn apart by gravitational anomalies, species wiped out by alterations to their planet's atmospheric composition, entire solar systems collapsing into artificially created black holes. "These are the consequences of wielding the arsenal carelessly," the voice continued. "It is not merely a weapon, but a key to creation and destruction on a cosmic scale." Sarah's mind reeled at the implications. How can we possibly use something like this safely? "Perhaps that is the wrong question," the voice replied. "The true test is not in using the arsenal, but in choosing not to." As the voice faded, the displays vanished, leaving them once again in the dimly lit chamber. But they were no longer alone. From hidden alcoves emerged figures of various alien races, some familiar, others utterly bizarre. Among them, Sarah recognized the elongated form of a luminary. "Welcome, humans," the luminary spoke, its thoughts resonating in their minds. "We are the Guardians, tasked with protecting the arsenal from those who would misuse it." General Stone raised his weapon instinctively, but Sarah placed a hand on his arm, urging caution. "If you're the Guardians," she asked, "why allow us to come this far?" Another alien, a crystalline being that sparkled with inner light, stepped forward. "Because the galaxy stands on the brink of chaos. The Galactic Council's tyranny grows unchecked, and new threats loom on the horizon. We needed to know if there were still races willing to make the hard choices." Dr. Hawthorne's eyes narrowed. "You've been testing us this entire time. The crashed luminary ship, the clues leading us here, it was all part of your plan." The Guardians nodded in unison. "And you have proven yourselves worthy of the truth," the luminary continued. "The arsenal is not meant to be used as a weapon, but as a deterrent. Its very existence keeps the balance of power in check." "But the Council knows about it now," Zach interjected. "What's to stop them from coming here and taking it?" A serpentine alien with iridescent scales slithered forward. "That is where you come in, humans. We offer you a choice. You may take the arsenal and use it to defeat the Council, but in doing so, risk becoming the very tyrants you seek to overthrow. Or, the crystalline being continued, you can join us as Guardians, using your knowledge of the arsenal's existence to force a stalemate." No one faction would dare move against another for fear of the weapon being unleashed. Sarah's mind raced. The power to defeat the Council, to free Earth and countless other worlds, was within their grasp. But at what cost? Could humanity be trusted with such godlike abilities? As if reading her thoughts, the luminary spoke again. There is a third option, one that requires the greatest sacrifice, but offers the best chance for lasting peace. We're listening, Sarah said cautiously. Destroy the arsenal, the luminary stated simply. Use its power one final time to erase itself from existence, along with all knowledge of it. Without the temptation of ultimate power, the galaxy may find a way to resolve its conflicts without resorting to such extremes. The chamber fell silent as the humans absorbed this information. The weight of the galaxy's fate seemed to press down on them. It's not just our decision to make, Sarah said finally. We need to consult with the rest of Earth's leaders, with our allies. The Guardians nodded in understanding. You may return to your world, the crystalline being said, but know that the longer the arsenal exists, the greater the risk of it falling into the wrong hands. As they prepared to leave, the luminary approached Sarah. Your species has surprised us, Sarah Connor. In you, we see echoes of our own past and hope for the future. Whatever you decide, know that you will not face the challenges ahead alone. With a flash of light, Sarah and her team found themselves back on Earth, standing amidst the ruins of their hidden base. The luminary crystal in Sarah's hand had transformed, now containing a direct link to the Guardians and the knowledge of the arsenal's location. As the gravity of their situation settled over them, Sarah looked at her companions. Their faces reflected her own mix of hope, fear, and determination. So, General Stone said, breaking the silence, what's our next move? Sarah squared her shoulders, her mind already formulating plans. We gather our allies, we prepare our defenses, and then... She paused, the weight of the future heavy in her voice. Then we decide the fate of the galaxy. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with danger and impossible choices. But as Sarah looked at her team, at the determination in their eyes, she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The true nature of Pandora's arsenal had been revealed, and with it, the power to shape the destiny of all sentient life. Humanity's quantum leap. The war room buzzed with nervous energy as Sarah Connor stood before the hastily assembled council of Earth's remaining leaders. The holographic displays flickered with real-time updates from across the globe and beyond, each image a testament to humanity's precarious position in the galactic conflict. Ladies and gentlemen, Sarah began, her voice steady despite the weight of responsibility. What I'm about to share with you will change everything we thought we knew about this war. She placed the luminary crystal on the center table, its soft glow casting ethereal shadows across the room. As Sarah recounted their journey, the ancient megastructure, the arsenal, and the choice presented by the Guardians, the faces around her cycled through disbelief, hope, and fear. General Stone stepped forward, his gruff voice cutting through the murmurs. We have the power to end this war right now, to drive the Council from Earth and free every enslaved world in the galaxy. How is this even a debate? Dr. Hawthorne shook her head, her eyes never leaving the crystal. It's not that simple, General. The arsenal isn't just a weapon. It's a responsibility. If we use it, we risk becoming the very thing we're fighting against. Not to mention the unforeseen consequences, Zach added, pulling up simulations on his tablet. Even small changes to the laws of physics could have catastrophic ripple effects across the universe. The room erupted into heated arguments, each faction advocating for their preferred course of action. Sarah watched silently, her mind racing through the possibilities and their potential outcomes. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the base. Elena burst into the room, her face pale. We've got incoming. The Council's launched a full-scale assault. They must have detected the arsenal's energy signature when we returned. Sarah's decision crystallized in that moment. We're out of time, she announced, silencing the room. We can't let the arsenal fall into the Council's hands, but we also can't destroy it without considering the consequences. We need to buy ourselves time. She turned to Zach. Can you use the crystal to interface with our defense systems? Give them a taste of what the arsenal can do without fully unleashing it. The young hacker's eyes lit up with understanding. A bluff. Yeah, I think I can manage that. We can create localized space-time distortions. Nothing too drastic, but enough to make them think twice about pushing further. Do it, Sarah ordered. She faced the council again. Meanwhile, we need to prepare for every contingency. Dr. Hawthorne, I want you working on understanding the full capabilities of the arsenal. General Stone, coordinate our conventional defenses. The rest of you, reach out to every potential ally we have. If we're going to reshape the future of the galaxy, we'll need all the help we can get. As the room burst into action, Sarah felt a familiar presence at her side. Dr. Alan Grant, still looking out of place in his mix of paleontologist attire and post-apocalyptic gear, offered a wry smile. You know, he said, I once thought the greatest power in the universe was the force that drove evolution. Now we're talking about rewriting the laws of physics themselves. Funny how perspectives change. Sarah nodded, grateful for the moment of levity. I don't suppose you have any more prehistoric surprises up your sleeve. We could use a few more temporal anomalies on our side. Grant's eyes twinkled mischievously. As a matter of fact, I might have an idea or two. Let's just say the Cretaceous period had a few more tricks than the history books let on. Outside, the sky lit up with the fury of battle. Council ships clashed with Earth's defenses, their energy weapons painting streaks of light across the atmosphere. But as Zack worked his magic with the crystal, strange phenomena began to manifest. Pockets of space where time flowed differently caused council ships to age centuries in seconds, their hulls crumbling to dust. Localized gravity wells pulled entire squadrons off course, sending them crashing into each other. In one particularly spectacular display, a section of the battlefield seemed to mirror itself, causing a council dreadnought to fire upon its own reflection. Council forces, faced with these impossible obstacles, began to retreat. Their once unstoppable advance had been halted by powers they couldn't comprehend. As the immediate threat subsided, Sarah allowed herself a moment of relief, but she knew this was only the beginning. In the days that followed, Earth became a hub of frenetic activity. Dr. Hawthorne and her team worked tirelessly to unravel the mysteries of the arsenal, each discovery both thrilling and terrifying in its implications. General Stone coordinated with military leaders worldwide, preparing for the possibility that their bluff might be called. Zack, now hailed as a hero for his role in the defense of Earth, found himself leading a new generation of tech experts, all working to integrate the crystal's capabilities into their existing systems. And Sarah, she became the linchpin, the bridge between military strategy, scientific discovery, and diplomatic outreach. As news of Earth's superweapon spread across the galaxy, old alliances were rekindled and new ones forged. Species that had long suffered under the Council's rule saw a glimmer of hope in humanity's stand. Refugees from 1,000 worlds flocked to Earth, bringing with them knowledge, technology, and a burning desire for freedom. But with this new hope came new dangers. Other factions, some even more ruthless than the Council, turned their gaze towards Earth. The promise of the Arsenal's power proved too tempting for many to resist. It was during one particularly tense negotiation with a coalition of former Council slaves that the true test of humanity's resolve came. You have the power to end millennia of oppression. The coalition leader, a being of pure energy contained within a humanoid shell, argued. Yet you hesitate. How many more must suffer while you debate ethics? Sarah felt the weight of countless eyes upon her. This was the moment that would define humanity's path forward. We hesitate, she began, her voice carrying across the assembly, because we understand the responsibility that comes with such power. Yes, we could reshape the galaxy in an instant, but at what cost? How many civilizations might we accidentally wipe out? How many unforeseen consequences might we unleash? She stood, her passion evident in every word. The arsenal isn't just a weapon. It's a reminder of the delicate balance that holds our universe together. We didn't fight against the Council's tyranny just to become tyrants ourselves. A murmur ran through the crowd, a mix of approval and disappointment. Sarah pressed on. But that doesn't mean we'll stand idly by. We propose a new path forward. A galactic alliance, with the Arsenal as a deterrent against any who would seek to dominate others. Together, we can build a future where disputes are settled through diplomacy and mutual understanding, not reality-warping weapons. As she spoke, Sarah could see the shift in the room. Fear and aggression gave way to cautious hope. It wasn't a unanimous agreement, but it was a start. As the assembly adjourned, Dr. Hawthorne approached Sarah, a look of wonder on her face. "You know," she said quietly, "I think we just witnessed humanity's true quantum leap. Not in technology, but in wisdom." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The road ahead was long and fraught with danger. The Council was wounded but not defeated, and countless other threats loomed on the horizon. But for the first time since the invasion, she felt genuine hope. Humanity had been given the power to reshape reality itself. Instead, they chose to reshape their own destiny. It was, perhaps, the greatest victory they could have achieved. As she looked out over the bustling activity of the base, at humans and aliens working side by side towards a common goal, Sarah knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The quantum leap had begun, and its effects would ripple across the cosmos for eons to come.